Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. It is the wee hours of a Saturday morning. Just got back from the arena, long drive home. The Heat, they lose 104-97 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it really, what was it was a fun game. I really enjoyed this game. It was a different style of game. It's funny, everybody's talking these days about the NBA and the style. This was Spo referred to as a bit of a throwback. It was definitely it was definitely one of those games that you could tell both of these teams really want to bring as much of an A game on the defensive side of the football, on the defensive side of the court as they could. And it really just made for a competitive game, but at times a sloppy game, and decisions of the ball kind of getting moved all around. I got to tell you, man, for sure the best defensive team I've seen the Miami Heat take on. And Spo even said this before the game. He's like, they got what we aspire to, how we like to play, but they do it better. And they do. I mean, like, just the intensity that team brings defensively is really a sight to behold. And not only that, but when they force you into mistakes, they just capitalize on them. And you could probably look to a game that was, fairly even, all over the place. 3-point attempts very close, free throws really close, field goals pretty close. The attempts everywhere pretty close. But you look at the big difference of points created off of conceded off of turnovers. The big battle there for Miami, 27 points. OKC was able to get off of Miami's turnovers to Miami's 15. And, it just felt like they were able to hurt Miami a little bit more in those moments. That just felt like it swung the game. And that really wasn't enough. I mean, you have to give that Thunder team a lot of credit. They're one of the best teams in the league, 22-5. Really wanted Miami to be able to pull this one out. Now they are just a game over 500 as they're heading into a back-to-back in Orlando with a little bit of health drama that's hanging over this game. And that's the other part of this is, Miami gave it a valiant effort. They fought back after it looked like things were really getting away from them. At the end of the third quarter, they had to deal with injuries or illnesses to two of their top guys. Bam, in the middle of this game, had to go get 7 stitches because his eye got cut open. So the Heat did have to battle through a lot of adversity. This is one of those where I think you kind of look back to when you lose games like this. I don't think there's any shame in losing games like this. It's when you lose games like this that it almost makes you start thinking about the other games that you let go that you probably should have won, the Detroit games of the world and things like that, and that you'll take the Raptor, you'll take losses like this if it happens from time to time because you're like, hey, that's a great team, fought them valiantly. We didn't have our top guy out there with us, okay, but that the Heat do have to get to a point where they got to string some things together. Anyway, let's get to the big story of this game, which was Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler leaves the game in the middle of the first quarter, and immediately when it happened, like we all saw this happen, he gets into a bit of an entanglement with Lou Dort. And Jimmy immediately is in a scramble with Lou Dort, who's of course obviously a demon on defense, gets the loose ball from Jimmy, and Jimmy is immediately hobbled. And I bring up my computer, I'm looking back on the play and what happened, and it looked like he twisted his left ankle pretty big, really badly, he rolled it over. So he is hobbled. He walks from the court right to the corner Heat locker room door, and you're probably thinking in that moment, oh, he's not coming back, because we know that the ankle is a bit of a sore spot for Jimmy. It's been his whole career with the Miami Heat, probably the thing that has nagged him most. But the weird thing was, that injury happens, and then it's announced, probably in the middle of early on in the second quarter, like 5 minutes in, I should say. Reports start coming out. The first one I saw was actually from Chris Haynes, but I'm sitting there in press row. I'm not on Twitter as much, but it had said like sources, Jimmy Butler is out with a stomach illness. I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean he's out with a stomach illness? He hurt his ankle. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean he's out with a stomach illness? Like, we all saw that he hurt his ankle. Now, I hadn't seen this, but I saw that Ira had put in his article that he apparently right before that, he had asked one of the Heat trainers for something that moments before, it says, in the Sun Sentinel, moments before Butler twisted his ankle, he walked over to the Heat bench during a Heat free throw and requested something from the trainer, Armando Rivas. So I don't know what he asked for, but maybe it's just something that's like adding injury to illness. Like, this was just how he already wasn't feeling good trying to power through it. But I think everybody, look, there's a lot of stuff going on with around the Jimmy Butler story. So when something like this happens, it's tough not to think like, wait, what do you mean that we all saw him hurt his ankle? He's out with an illness. And I guess so you're to say that the ankle is not a big deal, but he just doesn't have it in him to push through. I don't know. It just left with a lot of questions. And then Eric Spoelstra after the game was asked by Ira about it, and he really just had no time for it.
Jimmy, I guess, showed up ill. So was there a thought that you might have to go to Plan B?
I'm not thinking any other thought. No, if guys say they can go, we're going. Right now.
I don't even know what that answer is from him. Like, if guys say they can go, we're going. But he couldn't go. And I get it. Spo's probably frustrated. He just lost a game to OKC. I'm sure it's a game that he wanted to win. But it was just a very, very strange response. And then he had, and then in the same game, the thing that's a little bit funny. Not that I'm not insinuating there's trouble in paradise, because I'm not going to be here and be like, hey, I'm not going to tell you guys that like 3 games ago, just because the Heat were playing well. I'm telling you that for the most part this year, vibes have been pretty good around the Heat. Mood and attitude has been good around the Heat. It's tough. You never know what's going on behind the scenes, and obviously losses can change things. We know that the last time Jimmy was out there, he gave the whole I hate losing, I despise losing. I'll put the shoe on and I'll go and keep playing with my shoe off. I don't know. I don't think there's more to this, but this is kind of the world we're in right now with the world watching Jimmy Butler, where it's like, what is this? What do you mean? We all saw him leave with an ankle injury, and no, he was sick the whole time. He arrived with an illness. Okay. So I guess where we stand right now is Jimmy did not travel with the team to Orlando, according to reporters, but he could still travel to Orlando for the game. It's, whatever, in a private jet, 45 minutes. How long does it take you to fly to? I've never flown to Orlando. I've only driven to Orlando. I could tell you from my house, I could drive to Orlando basically in 2.5 hours. So I'm sure he could make the game if he felt better afterwards. But yeah, I mean, listen, this was a hard game. There was at points where like Bam, aside from Bam getting his cut where he had to get 7 stitches, there was a point where it looked like he tweaked his knee and was limping. There looked like a time where Tyler had tweaked his knee and wasn't walking that great. Really hard fought game. OKC brings a lot to the table. So anyway, that's the Jimmy Butler stuff that unfolded. A very close game going into halftime. I would say actually my favorite part of the second quarter was Nico. Nico came out and had a big and one. He had a 3. Really, really great first stint with the Heat. The rest of his game was not so fantastic. But yeah, the Heat went into this game like, Tyler Herro was doing I think 11 points, 8 rebounds. Bam got off to a fast start where he hit his first couple of buckets and then went 1 for his last 7. So he went into a little bit of a rut there. He's going against Hartenstein. Guy is a guy who's annoyed Bam for a while. I'd say like probably top 3 of guys that irritate Bam to go against. Probably like him. Nick Claxton is a guy that Bam is a nuisance to Bam. I was just talking about this with the guys today. Like, who's the other guy that really bothers him in matchups like that? But this was certainly one where, yeah, that you get off to that start and you're wondering like, all right, but it took him a bit to get going. It took him about a bit to find his rhythm again. So third quarter goes, the Heat, they are at this point going into try and get this lead cut, get back into this game. OKC's kind of led the whole thing. They're up by 3. And the big piece of this is Bam ends up getting his eye cut. And you're like, okay, he's like, just stops. He gets hit. He's like holding his head. Then he leaves and goes to the locker room. And that's really where OKC kind of takes off willy-nilly. They go up 11, and then Tyler Herro probably has his best run of the game. Boy Wonder puts on the cape, hits a couple of buckets, and then he finds Drew Smith in the corner. Drew Smith continues to be awesome, and then he found Haywood Highsmith in the corner for a 3, caused OKC to call timeout. Miami was able to get back the lead, 59-58. The team announced that Bam was going to come back into the game, but he did have to get stitches. And as he said after the game, he's not a big fan of needles. Like,
I mean, I'm one of the people, I don't really like needles, so it's kind of rough for me in the beginning. But, if you love the game enough, and obviously I do, and I love being out there with my teammates, you go through stuff like that.
That's not fun. I actually did that one time. Was with my friends in college. We had to leave campus, so a lot of my friends came at my house in Deerfield Beach, and we ended up, doing what dumb drunk kids do, and we ended up going to Deerfield Beach, and we played beach football with the street light, with moonlight, which was stupid because we couldn't see. And I ended up cutting up my eye pretty bad and had to go to the hospital to get stitches in the middle of a hurricane where there was no power in Broward. And that was stupid. That was stupid of me. This was story time with Tobes. So, so the Heat, they get to this point where they're able to get the lead, but it would not last long. And they just really had to. They really just kind of were trying to man the station as long as Bam was out. He eventually comes back in to the game. You could see him on the bench as he was returning from that, and definitely brings a little bit more. He's getting put back slams. He's getting more aggressive. But Miami still kind of has like a tough go of it at the end of it, and they end up trailing 81-70 going into the fourth quarter. Hard-fought fourth quarter. Miami comes up, they come up short. I think the tough thing with this was, a lot of Jaime Jaquez at the end. He just continues to struggle with his stuff, struggle with his shots. God, they turned the ball over like crazy. Bam had a bad night when it came to taking care of the basketball. 6 turnovers to lead the team tonight. He mentioned that after the game. He goes, it starts with me taking care of the ball. He can't give the ball up that much. And even with OKC being that good defensively, as the captain of the team, he's just got they just got them scattered too much and put him in bad spots. Tyler finished with 28 points tonight. Great game from him. 3-point shot wasn't there, but it wasn't really there for anybody today. It was a pretty bleh go of it. Drew Smith was the only guy who he was 3 of 4. Duncan Robinson 3 of 10. Tyler Duncan Robinson 3 of 11, Tyler Herro 3 of 10. So nobody like had one of those crazy shoot it up nights. OKC makes it tough on you, man. They really, really do. They really, really do. They make it a really tough go, but just not enough firepower at the end. So that was that, man. They lose to OKC. Don't want to dwell on this one too much. That's a good team. Didn't have Jimmy Butler. How long are they going to be without Jimmy Butler? I guess we'll have those answers later on tonight when this game happens against the Orlando Magic. I think out of this one, though, the thing that, other than having to take, try and be a little bit more careful with the basketball, even against a great defensive team like OKC is, man, you look to the bench tonight. Spo played Kevin Love 3 minutes. So this is another game where Kevin Love is like non-factor with all this rest. Nico now seems to be the backup big now that he's rats off a ship on Kevin Love. But Nico had a tough second half after a really good first stint. Rozier, just didn't have his shot tonight. He was 3 of 10. They bogged him down. And just Jaime, he puts up these numbers where you're like, yeah, they're not awful, but like you just watch it. There was this one point. First of all, he can't hit a 3-point shot, right? Like there was this one moment where he gets a wide open 3. I think Miami they cut it to 8 at the time. You hit that shot, you make it a 5-point game, and you're just like, all right, that could get the building on fire. And it wasn't able to go. Then he got another look, bounces in and out. He's not able to get it to go. So I don't know. He just doesn't look like he's just got that same confidence in his stuff. I think the league's probably picked up on some of his post moves. He's got, he's in sophomore, got to adjust to the adjustment right now. I still got faith in Jaime Jaquez, but you do have to wonder, does Pelle Larsson get more run? Drew's very clearly the number one guard that's coming off the bench right now. And then I'm not going to, I don't want to have the same conversation about Khalil Ware all the time, but I think we're getting to the point. I mean, Spo played Kevin Love 3 minutes today. When does the time come where he's going to give his rookie center a shot? And does he do that, or does he just go the direction of Keyshawn Johnson? I don't know. But certainly after a game like this, I guess first you got to see if Jimmy plays or not, because if he doesn't play, I'm sure Jaime is going to start. And then if he does, then off the bench, okay, it's pretty easy. Then Pelle will get some minutes. Maybe Alec Burks could sneak in there or whatever. But let's say Jimmy does play. All right, does Jaime get run again? Probably. But you got to think that Spo's looking to do Jaime and Terry. And these guys, I think the disappointment, they're supposed to be looked upon as the offensive hubs coming off the bench. Like, hey, you guys are supposed to spark something here. And neither one of them, Drew Smith is a bigger spark plug offensively, which is, you would think I would have told you Martians are real. Probably the wrong week to talk about that topic, but you would have thought that I would have told you unicorns are back before I would have told you that Drew Smith would have been a better offensive spark off the bench this season than Jaime Jaquez and or Terry Rozier. But he is. He's lighting it up. He's money on that corner 3. Right place, right time. Just makes, he's just a menace, dude. I love watching him play. He's been tremendous. But they need, they need it from Nico or Jaime or Terry. Man, somebody's got to pick up the slack there, especially in a night where Jimmy goes down. And they just, even with it being a tough matchup, nobody really made that impact or put OKC on their heels. And that's what I think led them to be comfortable, because they did a good job on SGA early on. SGA was not playing great, and then they get to this point in the where Bam is out, and he gets an and one on Triple J, and then just everything was falling for him. You know, it just takes a great player like that, a potential MVP candidate like that, just takes one. And that Jalen Williams is a stud as well. I mean, they got a roster on him. You know, like that OKC team's no joke, but you know, you would have liked a couple of other things to bounce Miami's way, possibly. You know, maybe they would have been able to get this out. But yeah, Miami's ability to, you know, to get these ones over the finish line has been a frustration point this year. All right, I've rambled enough on this one. There's a damn game in like 2 minutes. So we'll get to a recap of that tonight and see where we're at with the Jimmy Butler health status of things.